It's been great. I mean, I think again, I think we saw it in the process when we were talking about the interview process. Just a lot of common ground, and I think getting him on board with our staff. I think our staff's really excited to work with him, picking his brain, getting a little different perspective from somebody that's been in the American League. And we're in the process of the staff, of putting the staff together. We've got a couple people lined up, but I think it's something that hopefully between now and maybe in the next 2 weeks we'll have a staff in place.
See the CBA affecting free agency for you, or for that it potentially? Do you have to put up safeguards for that?
I mean, I think the biggest thing we've been is just business as usual. I mean, you have to be prepared for all different scenarios and situations, and obviously minor league free agency is underway right now. Big league free agency will kick off here in the next couple of days. A lot of conversation here from a trade standpoint. So I think that's our biggest focus, and we'll see what happens here with the labor talks as we get closer to the first.
Nelson Lamet expressed that he sees himself as a starter next season. Where do you see him?
Yeah, I think for us, like, probably the biggest thing is just getting back to what we've seen from him, over the past few seasons, especially the 2020 season. Then we'll kind of make that decision from there. I think a lot of belief for us in starting pitching, and our starters being able to get deep in the ball game. He's a guy that when healthy, he's one of the best starters in the league. So I think our focus again will just be from a quality standpoint, getting him to that level, and then we'll be able to at least have that conversation in spring training. But if he wants to start, we'll have more conversation with Ruben and Bob, and again, we know how impactful he can be in that role. From our standpoint, just constantly looking for depth and looking for numbers and quality. Some of it's going to come through the system. We've got some really talented young pitchers that we've got to get them to take another step in their development process, so that they're very real options for us at the major league level. Probably the biggest part is just health, and exactly why and what happened. That's all part of our offseason process, kind of looking back and seeing where we're at. But honestly, like, hopefully having some a little bit better luck as well, and looking up and seeing some really talented pitchers be able to take the ball. I think all those factors. I think for us, adding to the depth, seeing some development of our own guys, getting some better answers on the health question, and having some guys take a step back and get back on the mound. I think that's what we're looking for here in the 22 season.
Besides Gore, who would you consider to be among the group of young guys that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we saw Reese Kinnear come up. Ryan Weathers is the youngest pitcher in the big leagues at 21 years old. We'll have other guys coming back from injury. The Michel Biases, the Adrian Morihone. So Efrain Contreras as a younger pitcher that was starting to make some noise in our system. So again, we have a lot of depth and talent in our system, and I think a lot of the focus last year, because we just had a lot of injuries, so I think a lot of the focus may have been on some of the top-end starters. But, when you look up at Matt Strom, Drew Pomeranz, Jose Castillo, Michel Baez, Adrian Morihone, some guys that we had counted on as the second and third, waves, when those guys went down as well, that's how we looked up and we were again, we were in a spot at the end of the year where, it wasn't where we wanted to be, and got to make sure we prepare for that.
The process isn't as linear as some people would like it to be. Like, you win and you win and you win. But how do you view last year as a part of your process?
I mean, I think for us, ultimately you win a lot. I do think that's the part that we're trying to get right and make sure that we do. But there's been other teams that you look up. I mean, I know Houston in 2015, I believe they had a really good team playing the playoffs, and then in 16, things didn't quite go their way, but that didn't stop them for the next 5 or 6 years from being as good as any team in baseball. So I think for us, the biggest thing we focus on is just learning from the last 6 weeks. And I think for most of last season, we felt like we were a playoff team, and we were positioned to be that in the standings. But the biggest thing that we've got to do is learn from the last 6 weeks, learn from the season, and a lot of confidence with the players and staff we have in place that will do that.
How would you assess how Gore did in the AFL?
I mean, I think the biggest positives, I think, again, he's back throwing the ball, well from a stuff standpoint. I think velocity and, quality of his pitches, I think that was a big positive for us. And we saw that, both last summer and then into the minor league, season when he got a chance to go back out into the system. But I mean, he'll be the first to tell you he's still got to tighten up on a few things from a command standpoint, just get a little bit sharper with overall with some of his secondary pitches and his fastball command. But it was fun seeing him back out there. He had some dominant moments, and now we got to make that more consistent. Him coming into Petco last week, he had a chance to work with Ruben a little bit. I think that was kind of the last step for him in this season. It's been a long year for him. Now he'll get on an off-season type program and get ready for spring training.
How about CJ? How come he hasn't been able to get out?
Yeah, so CJ was coming back from the broken tibia, and he was basically about ready to get going in the fall league, and he dove and he has a bone bruise. It's I think left shoulder bone bruise. So I think for us it's more of a cautious situation, and I think he'll be ready for spring training next year. It's not anything that's going to be long term or anything like that, but I think dealing with that bone bruise, really the only thing for him is rest, and doctors have told him rest for I think 6 weeks now, and at this point trying to go back and play the last week or two of the fall league, we didn't see a lot of value in that. So he'll get ready for next year and be ready for the start of spring training. Participate in our programs in Arizona starting in January and get ready for spring training. Yeah, he's in great shape. He's on schedule from a throwing standpoint, and we expect him to be ready for spring training. So he's had a really good rehab process. Again, I think we've been through these, and some we've had some guys do well that have gone through a good program and been able to go out and take the ball and pitch well. The final step's always the most important one, in terms of going out every 5 or 6 days and making starts and throwing 75, 80 pitches. But he's in a good place right now going into the off season, and he should be full go here when we get ready for spring training. Yeah, we had a lot of conversation. I think we want to make sure again that it's obviously an important decision for him, important decision for the organization. So we wanted to make sure he had all of all the information in front of him, and he had ability. All kinds of different conversations with our team doctors, trainers, PTs, outside sources, outside doctors, and I just want to make sure he was making an informed decision. He did, and now we're he's into his off-season program, and his shoulders and from his standpoint, it's he's as strong as it's been. It's testing out strong, and just get ready for the season for him. Yeah, everybody wants to see Fernando play. So I think everybody, at the end of the day, it's he's a super exciting player. He's a super impactful player. So again, I think the goal for everybody is to look up and how do we see Tatis on the field for a full season into a playoffs, because that type of player helps us win games, generates a ton of excitement, and is what everybody wants to see. So that's the goal, and I think ultimately, he feels like this is the path that he wants to go in. We're supportive of it, and again, we saw it in the last 6 weeks. Like, he came back in those 6 weeks and he didn't miss any time at that point in time. So I think it's on our staff and Fernando himself and everybody to make sure we see that for a full season.
Do you see Tommy Pham as a Padre in 2022?
Yeah, I think, again, with our free agents, we've had just an initial conversation with agents or individuals. We told Tommy, again, I think Tommy's a guy we'd like to see back in the fold. But again, all these, this is it's that time of year right now in terms of starting to see if we line up from a dollar standpoint and what options are out there. With Tommy, ultimately, I think probably the biggest thing that I think we all respect him is that he's somebody that that looks at himself in the mirror and felt like he didn't quite get it done this year. It definitely wasn't for a lack of effort. He put a ton of time and effort into it. His body was banged up a little bit, and I think we'll have those conversations in the next couple of weeks about whether or not he comes back as a Padre next year.
After your end-of-season interviews, how would you evaluate the team chemistry, and is that something that you think about with player acquisitions in the offseason?
Yeah, I think that was probably one part. At the end of the season, with the team not playing well, I think it may have been easy to say, hey, they're and the way the season ended, giving everybody kind of a bad taste in their mouth. I think probably the best part was like sitting down with guys and talking about it and kind of seeing it. Like, we played hard to the end of the season, and more so like the players, they enjoy being there. They enjoy being in the clubhouse. They enjoy being with each other. And probably the biggest thing that came through loud and clear is like they believe in this team. They believe in the group. So again, like, you take that information in, and then ultimately it's up to myself and the front office staff to kind of evaluate where we fall short. But from that chemistry standpoint, we've got a lot of guys that believe, a lot of guys that love what's going on in the Padre organization, and I think love being a part of this team and this group. And I think that's that's honestly sitting down and talking with everybody. That chemistry, I think that's going to help us here a lot in 22. Yeah, I think we're always going to be, we're always going to look at ways to improve our team and our club. And again, ultimately at the end of the season, our record is our record. So we're not going to run away from that. I think again, you try to evaluate the whole season, and for 2/3 of the year, we were a team that was scheduled to play in the playoffs. So you don't want to overreact to something here, over the course of the last month, but we'll take it all in. We'll see where we fell short. We'll try to fortify the club in those areas, and that's the point of the next, of the next month or so, is try to find every way possible to get better. The guys are excited. I mean, I think again, like Bob, like the track record. Probably the biggest thing is they speak to their, the other players in the league that have played for Bob, that have played against Bob's teams, and I think everybody, they see, what he brings to the table. He's had a chance to talk to a lot of the guys on the roster, and I think really just the biggest thing. I think guys are excited. Yeah, I mean, I think all those questions, again, I think that's all. We always keep that, close to the vest and private in terms of what we end up doing and how we do it. But Joe had a great year. He loves being here in San Diego. He is part of the chemistry and the fabric of the club and has real leadership ability. I mean, all things that we're going to value, and we'll have, we'll talk to Joe and we'll talk to his group at the right time and go from there. To win a World Series? Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot. I mean, I think, obviously it starts with super talented players, and it starts with having the right people in that locker room, in that clubhouse, and I think we've seen it for large stretches of the last 2 years. I think that's why like fans and the attendance and the atmosphere that we all saw at Petco this year. I think the only reason for that is because people are excited about the team. They're excited about this group, and they think this team has a chance to win a World Series. And I think that's why the disappointment was so great at the end of the season, because I think everybody felt like this was a team that was capable of playing deep and winning a World Series. And again, I think we all feel that, and it's ultimately getting back to where we think like we have a team and a roster that's going to able to withstand 162 and play deep into the season. So every off season is important, because there's very few times that you usually end of spring training and definitely trade deadline and definitely the off season, you get a chance to go out and make decisions that impact your club and your roster. So obviously there's a lot of talent on the free agent market. There'll be players that'll be available in trades, and ultimately, what does it take to win? It takes, it's no secret. It's, great starting pitching, and, deep bullpen, an offense that puts pressure on other clubs, great defense. I think we'll be continue to look at our roster, try to make sure we find those pieces in the next couple of weeks and months. Hopefully there's some guys out there that make us better. No, I mean, I think, for us, like, with Eric brings a lot to our team. We knew that when we signed him. I think we'll sit down. I said this earlier in the day, like we've been focused so much on the managing search and getting Bob in place, and now putting a coaching staff together. Then we'll start to turn the page and talk to all of, really sit down with our players here over the course of the next couple of weeks and hear from them, hear what their expectations are, and more so lay out from Bob and myself and others, what we think we need to do if we're going to win a championship. We see our team having Eric, a championship team in San Diego with Eric as the first baseman. We see that. And we'll get a chance to sit down and visit with everybody, Eric included, in the next couple of weeks, and make sure he shares that view.
Did you think close to trading him at the end at the deadline?
I think a lot of the conversation, deadline talk, speculation that at times is accurate, speculation that I think we all saw that this year at times is not accurate. The biggest thing is with Eric, sat down with him at the deadline and explained that. Ultimately, we looked at all different ways to make the team better. We did have conversations about first base and how to do that, and ultimately made the decision at the deadline last year that our best team and the best situation for our organization going forward was with Eric and as our first baseman. Nothing's changed in the last couple of months from my standpoint from that, and we'll see where the offseason takes us and what the next couple of weeks look like. We sat down with Eric the day of the deadline, and sat down with him, right after the deadline, and spoke to him there and had an opportunity to talk as well, as we got towards the end of the season. But we'll sit down, here in the next couple of weeks with everybody. It's not just an Eric Hosmer sit down. We'll start really getting with all of our players, and hearing, hey, here are the things that they feel like went well last year. Here are the things that we have to do better as a group and a team. Here are some things the organization can do better for them. Those will all be had here over the course of the next couple of weeks, and get a better sense of where everybody stands.
Do you go fly to all those guys, or do you sit down with them virtually, or?
Yeah, all different. I think that's a conversation with Bob, and we'll sit down and kind of figure out what's the best way to do it and handle it. But yeah, I think we'll just make sure biggest thing is just to be able to talk, whether it's face to face, and maybe some situations where we do that. Most importantly, is just getting on the phone, and having those conversations. I think two halves for you in terms of performance. First half he was as an all-star, and he's obviously very consistent and pitched like a front of the rotation guy. He's in San Diego right now. He's working out already, getting ready for next season. We want to make sure the hip and the low back, some of those issues he had in the second half, that we get that in a good spot. Have a lot of, Yu is a very hard worker. He's very smart and diligent about, his body, his preparation, and that'll be the big part of the focus for the next few months, is just making sure he comes into spring training ready to pitch a full season. And some of those tweaks that we saw in the second half that affected his performance, making sure that we were able to put him in the best position possible, and he feels like he's ready to go all year. I mean, I think we have a lot of players that other teams call us on and talk about. So that's why, again, I think that's why we've had the ability to make moves, and we have a lot of different options. And again, I feel like even just in the last week here, the first few days of some trade talk conversation, there's players. We have quite a few players up and down throughout the organization that other teams want and are interested in, and that gives us the ability to have creative conversations and see where it goes. So I think we're you always, again, I think the biggest key and the biggest currency is talent, and we have a lot of talent in the organization. So that'll give us some flexibility and some options. And again, I do think though ultimately, like, this isn't about just flipping the roster or anything like that. We feel like we've got a team that's we have the core here of a team that can win a World Series, and it's probably going to be like adding the right piece or two to that talented core. I think that consistency. I mean, I think I think being able to just be consistent, day in, day out, and I think that part of that's a health question. Part of that is, again, like maybe just the dynamic that we had on a day-to-day basis. And again, I think we're expecting some different voices on the coaching side, and definitely different voice in the manager's office to guide us through some of those tougher times, and make sure that we stay consistent over 162, and that the highs are high and lows aren't quite as low. And again, there's a lot, baseball, it's a lot of things that come up in terms of, it's a game of inches, and maybe, a ball here, a strike here, a ball that kicks foul, and ultimately, put some of those things in our favor by preparing the right way, having the right, overall having the right conversations as a group. And I think we do those things, we'll put ourselves in position to be in a good spot over 162.
What's the priority as you prepare to hire your seventh hitting coach? What are you looking for?
Yeah, I mean, I think overall, probably the ability to connect and with our players, that's part of it. It's a tough job. I think it's not just for the Padres. I think you're seeing throughout the industry. Somebody said the other day that's almost half the hitting coaches got turned over here over the course of the last in the last few weeks, honestly, in this off season. So exactly why and what the reason is. But again, I think looking for real knowledge and content. I think somebody that connects with the players, somebody that fits in with the staff, because I think we have some holdovers from the current staff that'll have a voice on the hitting side. That'll have some good thoughts and ideas. And again, it's a tough job in terms of the hitting, because of the nature of pitching right now, the power pitching we've seen, and somebody that has some answers for the group.
Do you expect that guy to make a difference in terms of ground ball rate and these sorts of things that plagued you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the ability to get a message across to the players. Hopefully, maybe it's a drill, maybe it's a conversation, maybe it's mindset. I think all those things may factor in. So I think ultimately the player has to make an adjustment, and we have to put players in that have the ability to do damage and control the zone and do good things from an offensive standpoint. But yeah, I think the expectation for the coaches are can you is it a suggestion, is it a mindset, is it a drill series or package? Is it a conversation on the bench? I think all of those things can impact an offense, and we've had for the most part over the last couple of years, we've had an offense that puts pressure on the opposition. I think getting getting a hitting coach is part of that. That'll be the goal here for the next couple of weeks. He's had some obviously all different kind of injuries over the last season. I think some of the injuries from the hand standpoint seem more flukish. Taking a foul tip that goes off your glove hand, and then the torn thumb ligament I think it was a collision at the plate, or at the end of the season. But we like from Nola, Caratini, Campusano continue to develop. I feel like we have real major league catching and guys that should be that ultimately are impactful. And I think just again, it's another situation, getting those guys on the field for us. I think that'll be a big part of it. But yeah, we like what we have on the plate, and I think that's an area we can see some real improvement here this year. Is getting Nola back, continuing Campusano development, Caratini's second year, in the organization, should be an area where I think we see a more productive situation behind the plate for us. Yeah, I think he was in Petco. He's here this week, so I think he starts his throwing program, I believe, the first week of December. So I think everything's been good from that. That was a planned, postseason break basically. But he's in Petco this week with everything going on meeting-wise. I'll probably get more information in the next couple of days. But I think his throwing program's supposed to start up the first week of December. Again, I think Chris, he's capable of being, a guy that can pitch in, one of those top 3 or 4 spots in a rotation, and that's the expectation. It's, I think we saw it, very consistently in that rookie season. I think, in the 2020 season, for that first month, pitched like a front of the rotation type guy. Kind of had his first taste of some failure there in the last month, and with that postseason outing against the Cardinals. He came back this year, and there were moments where he was dominant. I think just getting those moments to be more consistent from outing to outing standpoint, pitch to pitch standpoint, that's the key and the goal. It's in there. It's a very real fastball. It's a good changeup. It strikes. He's a great competitor, and it's his work ethic is well above average. So those are usually good components for somebody to be successful at the big league level. That's our goal here for going into next year, is to make sure that we see that the guy that I think we've seen at different points over the last couple of years get that for 30+ starts next year. Yeah, that whole GM again, I think focus honestly more on like the duties and responsibilities. I think part of it feels like at times title, for certain people, and I think for us we've never focused on that. I think we have plenty of people, Josh Stein, Fred Yolman, they do the work of GMs, presidents, assistant GMs, director of baseball ops. They do all kinds of good work, and I think from our standpoint, the focus really is just winning and trying to put a winning product on the field. In terms of giving somebody that title at some point in time. Yeah, that's something we'll talk about, but I'm focused more on how do we put a winning team on the field, and I think the rest of that will kind of handle itself.